एवरीवन एंड वेलकम टू आवर चैनल देसी कपल ऑन द गो, जिसमें मैं मेघा और सौरभ जो कैमरा के पीछे हैं जाते हैं बहुत सारे प्लेसेस और शेयर करते हैं आप सभी के साथ अपनी ट्रैवल स्टोरीज। इस वीडियो में हम लोग कहीं जा नहीं रहे हैं। इस वीडियो में हम एक क्वेश्चन का आंसर देने वाले हैं और जो वो एक क्वेश्चन नहीं है, वो क्वेश्चन हम लोगों से बहुत सारे लोगों ने पूछे कि इंडियन कम्युनिटी कहाँ रहती है। वैसे इंडियन कम्युनिटी जो है
Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Making It in Holland. If you're new here, welcome, so nice to have you. Today I thought to come on and make a video about some of the reasons why you should not move to the Netherlands. Quick disclaimer, by no means do I dislike living here, by no means do I have anything particularly against Dutch people or the Dutch culture. If anything, I'm a fan because, well, I'm still here and I'm repping the orange t-shirt. So just to let you know that nothing in this video is intended in an ill-mannered way. These are just some of my personal opinions and some personal observations that I've been doing over the last couple of years. But having said that, if you have any other thoughts, if you agree with what I'm saying or if you disagree with what I'm saying, feel free to comment down in the comments below. Let's have a discussion. According to the latest statistics of the CPB, the Central Plan Bureau, in 2020, an average person earns a median salary of around 36,000 euros. Now, when you think about that, it's really not that much money, and that equals to around 2,800 per month. But mind you, this is all before tax, and when the taxes are taken into account, you're left with 2,200 euros per month to actually fulfill all your living expenses here in the Netherlands. And when I say that everybody relatively earns the same amount of money, I'm really not over exaggerating. Let's take a look at an example. If you're a taxi driver, anywhere between 1 to 3 years of experience, you're going to be making around 24,000 per year. And if you're a junior architect, with anywhere between 1 to 3 years of experience, you're also going to be making anywhere as low as 24,000 to maybe 28,000. So when you look at that, the salary gap is not really that big, and at the end of the day, everybody takes home a salary that's relatively the same every single month. Although, don't get me wrong, there are several jobs here that pay you really well, and I made a video about that, so please check that out if you're interested in some of the higher salary jobs here in the Netherlands. But remind you that the higher you earn, the higher the tax bracket that's going to be applying to you, which means at the end of the day, your take-home pay is not going to be as high as it would be, for example, if you were living somewhere like the States. The highest tax bracket currently, as I'm filming this in 2020, is 49.5%, but basically just think about that as 50%. So if you make a lot of money, you're paying half of that in taxes to the government, which it's not really what you want to be doing if you want to be getting rich. Am I right? And here I also want to mention a lot of people want to move here because of the 30% ruling, which means 30% of your salary is not going to get taxed. However, as of 2019, this rule only applies for a maximum of 5 years, and after that, you're just going to be paying taxes like everyone else here. So don't have these illusions that when you move to the Netherlands, you're automatically going to be extremely rich, because that's not always the case. The second reason why you should not move to the Netherlands is if you're uncomfortable being a minority and if you're not willing to grow thick skin to deal with things like xenophobia, occasional racism, and passive-aggressive commentary. Now, by no means am I trying to actually imply here that all Dutch people are like this, but just as in any country, you have some good people and you have some less good people, and it's just better to prepare yourself for the possibility of facing such things when you move here, especially if you're from a non-EU country. Believe it or not, on some days I do receive the occasional xenophobic comments, and the prime example of this is this YouTube channel. If you go back to some of my previous videos and scroll down in the comments, you're going to see that I had to deal with some people explaining to them that although I am from Turkey, I have no ill intentions, and even though I am from Turkey, I'm not in this country solely because of the fact that I can earn more money here, or solely because of the fact that there is a better life here. For example, I used to get, and I still very much to this day get comments like, oh, you're from Turkey, how come you speak so good English? Oh, I thought you were from America, you don't even really look Turkish. Oh, your dad has blue eyes, Turkish people have blue eyes? Or things like, one of my ex-colleagues said to me, oh, there's this Turkish Dutch entrepreneur here, she moved from Turkey several years ago. She was really poor, and when she moved here, she became wealthy and famous. And you know what that means for you? Now that you've moved from Turkey to the Netherlands, that means you're also going to have to get famous. Well, you know what, guys? If I wanted to get famous, I could have done that in Turkey, I could have done it in China, I could have done that in the States, I could have done that in any part of the world, but instead, I choose to be here on YouTube and be a celebrity for all my 1,000 subscribers here. And by the way, thank you so much for that. There's going to be a subscriber special coming up very soon. The third reason why you should not move here is a very, very over-discussed one. And yes, I'm talking about the weather. Now, where do I even begin to talk about the Dutch weather? Right now, as I'm filming this, it's end of July, so you would associate that with very hot weather. You could go swim, you could go get a tan, but as you can see, I am still very pale and it's semi-cloudy outside as I'm filming this. So if you want to move here because you want to enjoy this great hot weather, please don't do it. And if you want to move here and if you want to enjoy every single season as they come, reconsider again, because here in winter, it can be like summer, autumn, spring all in one day. And then here in summer, it could like snow, rain, and be summer and windy all in one day. So the weather is very, very unpredictable. But here, I want to share with you my best friend ever that I feel like everybody should have if you're going to adapt to the Dutch lifestyle. And that is my beautiful Senzo umbrella. These are amazing and they're windproof. They are like heavy rain, heavy droplet proof. I have the like super long version that also doubles as self-defense, but I highly recommend getting one of these guys. Ideally one that's like this, because if you get a cheaper one, it's going to break. Or go with the same brand and buy one of the foldable ones, because it is what it is. You're going to have to deal with the weather here, and you might as well do it in style, having an amazing umbrella that you know is never going to break. I really want to mention here that when I was studying here in high school, I went to an American school, and by default, all of my friends were international, and within that group, there were also Dutch friends whom I love and I still keep in touch with, but that is an exception, because those Dutch friends of mine were also very much international and used to the idea of changing countries every couple of years. So it was much easier for me to relate to them and them with me and us to become friends. Whenever I came back from UK after completing my degrees to study my master's here, I realized how difficult it is within the functioning normal Dutch world to actually penetrate a completely Dutch-speaking friend group. Now, to give you an example, when I was studying architecture at Eindhoven University of Technology, all of my colleagues who were Dutch would leave the studio 5 sharp on a Friday, go back home where they have their lifelong friends, their high school friends, and people that they actually grew up with, to spend the weekend with them, party with them, and then come back to university on a Monday to go through the school day. And if they see you on the corridor or if you have lunch with them, you have a couple of exchanges, but you know that by the time 5 p.m. rolls around, they're going to go back to their friends, especially on Friday nights. So if you're not willing to suffer the fact that it's going to be difficult for you to immediately integrate into the society, you might not want to move to the Netherlands. But if you're okay with having international friends here and eventually adapt to the Dutch culture and slowly make Dutch friends, then by all means, welcome. My fifth point is, don't move to the Netherlands if you're an extremely driven, career-oriented person who is driven by earning loads and loads of money. Now, my friends, if you move here and you have the 30% ruling in the first 5 years, you're probably going to have a very comfortable life. But as those years go by one, and if you're looking after those big promotions that are going to come with those hefty paychecks, Netherlands is not really the country for you. Because here, after even proving yourself and being the best employee ever, after 1 whole year, 2, 3, maybe 5 whole years, the amount of promotion salary you're going to have is going to be much less than you would get in some other countries for the same equivalent position. So this is very important to keep in mind. Okay, it's all great. In the beginning, you have that tax bracket, but as time goes on, are you really going to be happy and satisfied here when you see that your results are not actually seen by the monetary compensation that they deserve? And the last reason why you might not want to move to the Netherlands is if you want to live a lifestyle of luxury. If you're coming from a very big country like the United States, where it's all about the American dream, the big house, the flashy cars, the high-end garden, and all these garages, you're going to be disappointed with the way the Dutch actually live so modestly. Here, every single square meter counts, and typically you don't get a very big house, let alone garages, let alone parking spots. More often than not, you even have to pay for your own parking spots because the Dutch government simply doesn't want you to actually have your own car, because they have sustainability goals that they're working towards, and they're trying to encourage you to take public transport as much as possible. So reconsider your expectations when you're moving here. You're going to probably start off having a smaller, much more modest house. If you're going to be renting, having a lot of housemates is very common, and you're probably not going to have a dishwasher. You're probably not going to have your washer, especially a dryer. That's definitely a luxury if you have all 3 in one space. So definitely it's worth mentioning here to realistically assess your expectations, because here houses are small, lifestyle is expensive, especially if you want to go down the luxury route, and more importantly, it's just important to tell you to really just genuinely have realistic expectations. So that was it for this week's episode. I hope I managed to give you some pointers if you're looking to move to the Netherlands to help with your decision. Like I said, it's my job here on this channel to provide a balanced view as much as possible. And if you want to look at some of the reasons why you should move to the Netherlands, make sure to check out the video that's going to be popping up right this second. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you like my content, please consider subscribing. I upload videos once a week, sometimes twice if I feel like it. And thank you so much for tuning in this week, and I will see.
The Netherlands is the 6th most expensive country in the European Union. They say things as they are, okay? If you're not willing to learn a new culture, don't say I didn't warn you, don't come. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back, okay? Thank you guys for all your love and support. It means so much to me, okay? So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you guys 10 reasons why I think the Netherlands might not be for you, okay? Listen guys, you all know that I love the Netherlands. I love living in this beautiful country, and I've made series of videos just talking about my experience and how much I've enjoyed the few years that I've spent in this country, okay? But I do recognize that everyone is different, and what I like might not be what someone else likes, or what interests me, or what I can tolerate may be entirely different from others. So I've decided to kind of compile a few things that I think would make the Netherlands not everybody's cup of tea. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this video. So the first reason I think the Netherlands may not just be for you is if you're not willing to learn a new culture or a new language. Okay, here in the Netherlands, the official language is Dutch, and Dutch is spoken, I think, in barely 5 countries all over the world. So it's not the most common language in the world, okay? So that means if you're moving to the Netherlands, I would expect that you'll be open to at least learn the language or learn some of the Dutch culture. One thing I would like to put out there is that about 90% of Dutch people, or Dutchies as I call them, speak English. So if you're an English speaker and you're moving and you're planning to move to the Netherlands, then you will be able to find your way around because a lot of people will understand what you're saying. But I just feel like if you're moving to the Netherlands to, you know, stay here for a few years or maybe even move here permanently, then at some point you would get to understand that you really need to learn Dutch to be able to develop some type of relationship with the locals. And I mean, that's how it's supposed to be, Abby. Like when you go to Rome, you behave like the Romans, Abby. So the second thing I would say that should be like a red light that this country might not just be for you is if you're someone who do not appreciate directness, or you are someone who cannot tolerate any form of directness, okay? So yeah, I've made a few videos about the directness of the Dutch people. I mean, the Dutchies are known all over the world for their directness. See, they say things as they are, okay? And I do recognize that in so many cultures, directness can be seen as blatantly being rude, okay? So if you're not someone who can tolerate, you know, someone being direct, and you're not open to having that type of, you know, culture or that type of vibe around you, then maybe the Netherlands is not for you. Another thing that I want to talk about is the Dutch weather, okay? The Dutch weather is very rainy and it can be cold during the winter season. It might not be as cold as some other countries up north, but it is wet, okay? It rains literally all the time in the Netherlands during winter, summer, spring, autumn. Just any time of the year, you just be rest assured that you're going to get rain. And sometimes it feels like during summer, the rain is even on another level, okay? Which can be very, very annoying. So if you're someone who cannot deal with rainy weather, okay, wet weather, if you're someone who likes sunshine, who likes being in the sun, you know, just having fun, sipping some glass of wine, getting some tan, and you're not ready to, you know, negotiate that, then maybe the Netherlands is not for you. Because another thing that might make the Netherlands a no-no for some people is the topography, okay? The Netherlands is like mainly flat, lowlands and absolutely flat. We don't have so much mountains. I think we do have a few mountains here in the Netherlands. I'll try to see if I can find some pictures and I'll put it here. But to be honest, if you have been to Italy, okay, or you've been to Switzerland, you will realize that these things we call mountain here in the Netherlands are just hills. I did not say anything, no. Dutchies, don't come for me, okay? You're someone who likes to hike, who likes to be in the sky, you know, who likes your mountains. If you're someone who is very particular about it, then maybe the Netherlands is not for you. But I will put it out there that the Netherlands is in Europe. So what that means is that if you're a foreigner and you're living in the Netherlands already, that means you will be able to visit other European countries without additional documents. So even though, yes, we don't have mountains, here in the Netherlands, I mean, you can always book a trip to Italy, to Spain, to Switzerland, any time of the year and go see mountains if that's what you're interested in. But in this country, you will be disappointed if that's all you're looking for. Okay, so another thing that might be an indication that the Netherlands may not be for you is if you're looking for a country with a very, very low cost of living. Okay, I don't see the Netherlands as the most expensive country in the world, but it's also not the cheapest, okay? The Netherlands is the 6th most expensive country in the European Union. Consumer prices are about 17% higher than the European average. So that tells you something. It's pretty much an expensive country. So if you're someone who is looking out for, you know, a country that has really low cost of living, or you're looking out for somewhere to have a really, really comfortable life with very low income, then maybe the Netherlands is not for you. Okay guys, so now we are still in the business of money. Okay, another reason or indication that the Netherlands may not be your cup of tea is if you're someone that like to live an extravagant lifestyle, that like to show off, you know, that like to gather accolades, you know. You're the kind of person that like to be among the 1% of the 1% and likes to be treated accordingly, then maybe the Netherlands is not for you, okay? I made a video, I think, a couple of times why I love the Netherlands, and in almost all those videos I always say that I love the Netherlands because it's an egalitarian society. So it means that everyone is treated equally, okay, and with respect. Here in the Netherlands, people are really not used to, you know, a very flashy, extravagant lifestyle. No, people live within their means. People are more chill. People are treated equally, you know. The lifestyle here is really like chill vibes. So even if you have money, it's just for you to quietly enjoy your life or quietly afford the things that you can afford. If you're the kind of person that wants to come and show, you want people to treat you with respect because you're rich, then maybe the Netherlands is not for you, because you will not get that vibe here. You will not. So yeah, now that we are talking about, you know, egalitarian society, another reason why the Netherlands might not be for you, if you're the kind of person that do not believe in gender equality, okay, that believe that women still belong to the kitchen and men should earn more than women, and that women should not go to school, they should just be at home giving birth to children, then maybe the Netherlands is not for you, because that's not what they promote in the society. So as I mentioned, the society is more egalitarian, so they believe that everyone should be treated equally and with respect, male or female. So if you're the kind of person that don't believe in equality and believe in maybe a more hierarchical society, then the Netherlands may not be for you, okay? Don't say I didn't warn you, don't come. So number 8 reason why the Netherlands may not be for you is if you're someone who doesn't like water, you have phobia for water or something, and you're not even open to dealing with it, then maybe the Netherlands is not for you. Because of how much water that you have in the Netherlands, not just at the beaches, but also within the city. So you have water running through the city in canals. It's actually compulsory for Dutch kids to learn how to swim at a young age. So here in the Netherlands, I think as part of the school curriculum, it's compulsory that the child must have a swimming diploma. So that's how important it is for them, because they do have water, they do have canals running through the city, they do have beaches. So they kind of try to adapt the people, the Dutch people, or the people living here to, you know, their environment and what they have. So I would say the Netherlands has a really good relationship with water. So if you're someone who you don't like water, you don't want to be around water, you hate canals, maybe the Netherlands is not for you, okay? So number 9 reason that the Netherlands may not be for you is if you're someone who is not open-minded, if you're not willing to respect other people's point of view, then maybe the Netherlands is not for you. In this country, the standard of morality is very, I don't want to use the word confusing, but it can be seen as controversial, okay? So some things that are okay to do in other countries are an absolute no-no in the Netherlands, but some things that are absolutely no-no in other countries are legal in the Netherlands, okay? So when it comes to question of morality and what is good and not good, you can see the Netherlands as one that is very controversial. But I feel that the reason why the people are able to live with each other in maybe such moral controversy is that people are open-minded and people are willing to work with one another, okay? I'm not saying here that maybe if your standard of morality is different from what is quote-unquote the norm here in the Netherlands, that you will not be able to survive here. No, I'm just saying that even if you have your own standards, you also need to be a bit more open-minded, because the culture here is more I'll say more liberal. And a typical example is that I am a Christian, and obviously there's so many standards of morality that I see here in the Netherlands that is not in line with my own belief system. So it doesn't make me to stop believing what I believe. So I believe in God, and that's period. But at the same time, I'm also very respectful of other people's beliefs and opinions. So it doesn't make me to, you know, to be critical of them, to condemn them at every opportunity. No. I try to understand, but I also take my stance. You know, I understand why you do what you do, but this is what I believe, and period. I'm not here to judge no one, and I'm not here to impose my standard on you. And I think that that's the mindset that can help you if you're someone who is also religious or someone who has a different standard of morality. Okay, guys, so the number 10 thing that may make the Netherlands say no for some people is if you're someone who is very particular about variety of cuisines. Okay, so I do know that a lot of people are food lovers and they love to be in an environment like where there are enormous number of meals, food varieties and all that. Then if you're that kind of person, maybe the Netherlands is not for you, because the Dutch food has a record high novelty of being bland. Okay, Dutchies, pardon me, I'm not trying to be rude. You all know I love you guys, and I'm willing to try your food, and your food is amazing for me. But for someone who is looking out for like variety of cuisines, you know, the Dutch food might not just work. But one thing I've noticed is that here in the Netherlands, you do get to find a variety of spices and groceries and ingredients from all over the world. So maybe the food, the Dutch food might not be the best, but you can definitely find spices that you need to make your own variety, because that has been my case. I've been able to get food items that I never even knew or even imagined that I could find here in the Netherlands. I was able to find them, and I make my Nigerian meals very well here. So yeah, okay guys, listen, see, we're almost done, or rather we're actually done, because I've been able to share with you 10 reasons why the Netherlands may not be for you. And I can hear some people say, if the weather is bad, the food is bad, the people are rude, the cost of living is high, you need to learn a new language, why on earth would anybody want to move to the Netherlands? I hear some people ask that question, okay? And I'm going to just keep this answer very simple, because that's the reason why I moved to the Netherlands, and that's why I absolutely love it. And that's stability and quality of life. Okay? The Netherlands might not be the most fun place to live. I mean, you might not have a mountain by your window, you might not have the best cuisines in the world. I mean, you might not have the best weather, it might not be sunshine all year round. But one thing you will get in the Netherlands is an amazing quality of life. You will get stability. The Netherlands is just, to me, a definition of home. You know, home might not be the best, most exciting place to be, but it's just the most stable, comfortable place to be. And that's how I see the Netherlands. So that's why no matter where I travel, I might travel to really interesting, wonderful places. Once I stay 1 week, I just want to come back. I mean, trains barely come late. Public transport is stable. You have your bicycle tracks. You can cycle to work. It's a beautiful country. So if you're someone who is like big on stability, which I am, then the Netherlands may be for you, okay? So yeah, guys, this is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching and getting to this point, okay? So yeah, if you're Dutchy and you're watching this video, please let us know in the comment section if there's anything I might have gotten wrong, or if there's something else about your culture that you feel might be a red light to some people who are planning to come over. Just share it in the comment section. It might be very helpful to other people who are at the point where they have to make a big decision. Okay, thank you so much guys once again for watching, and see you in my next one. Bye.
The Netherlands is celebrated for its fairness, but the system is failing. Housing protests have amassed huge turnouts. The Dutch have a unique housing market, of which social housing is a cornerstone. They have by far the largest share of social housing in the developed world. About 1/3 of all homes are kept off the market to be managed by an NGO. their goal is not to make money, but to provide affordable rental homes. And the eligibility requirements are met by 40% of the population. But whenever there is a housing protest, a common demand is to add even more social housing and to make them even more accessible. But despite the Netherlands already having the largest share of social housing, they also have the most overburdened rental market in the developed world. 25% of Dutch citizens spend more than 40% of their income on rent. Something is clearly not working.
And I want to find out what it is.
This is why the Dutch are in deep trouble with hindsight. Over the past years, major protests have erupted.
Het gaat over de basis van de mens en dat is een huis.
Dat willen we eruit halen, de sociale woningbouw komt.
The goal of these protesters is often to add more social housing to the existing housing stock, and that seems to make sense on a gut level.
But I want to look at the whole picture. So I went into the archives and I pulled up some of the most interesting statistics, and I found a lot of really eye-opening things. To understand the long-term trend, it's important that we start by understanding how the housing market took shape.
Around the mid-1850s, the working class was moving to the cities to work in factories. In just 3 decades, the population of cities like Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and The Hague more than doubled. But living conditions were often poor. This affected the productivity and health of workers. So some entrepreneurs started woningbouwverenigingen, housing associations. These were privately owned companies with shareholders. There existed some 200 of them, and by the turn of the century, they provided about 10,000 families with homes. It was still a small segment of housing, but that would change.
Behind are the grim years of famine and oppression. The bands play and the people welcome the dawn of a free new day.
World War II left the country in ruins. Of all Dutch homes, nearly a fifth was damaged and tens of thousands were heavily damaged or destroyed. There was a massive shortage of homes, or woningnood, how the Dutch called it. 250,000 homes were needed. The government was tasked with a momentous challenge, but they had an idea. Housing associations had primarily existed to house workers, but the government placed them under tight supervision, and they provided billions in funding to let them supply hundreds of thousands of affordable homes for all Dutch citizens. It led to a building frenzy. Between 1950 and 1980, they added 2.5 million new homes, almost doubling the entire housing stock. The shortage of homes now dropped from around 300,000 in 1945 to about 75,000 in 1970. Housing associations played a crucial part of this, and they were basically an extension of the government. But after the housing shortage was somewhat relieved, they started to liberalize. One of their goals was to encourage homeownership. In 1945, most people were still living in a privately rented apartment. Over the years, this figure dropped substantially to just 19%. Homeownership had become more common. This was encouraged by the government, amongst other things, with the hypotheekrenteaftrek, a tax break for homeowners. Over that same period, social housing had become a major segment of the housing stock, making up 43% of all homes at its peak in 1989. The transition to widespread social housing had cost the government billions, and in the 1980s and 90s, many felt that it was time for these associations to stand on their own feet. The government cut their funding, and from the mid-1990s and onwards, they started operating as non-profit private businesses. They had a social mission to provide affordable housing, but were now operating without any subsidies.
So in many socialist countries, these types of homes are owned by the state, whereas in countries like the United States, housing is almost entirely driven by the market. But the Dutch created a hybrid model.
Non-profit housing operated with market-oriented principles. So how did it go wrong? So the only reason why we can make these videos is because we have sponsors. They help us pay for editors and writers, and today's sponsor has been a longtime friend of the channel. If you're watching this video without a premium subscription, or if you're using any service on the internet without paying, your data will be collected. There exists an entire industry out there of companies who are collecting your data to sell them to data brokers.
That is a major reason why you receive so much junk mail and robot calls, and it leaves you vulnerable to identity theft.
The solution is Incogni. They reach out to data brokers on your behalf, and they make requests for your data to be deleted. They already took my data off 135 lists, and they're working on 12 more at this very moment. In the activity log, you can see exactly of which list your data has recently been deleted.
If you want to restore your privacy, Incogni is offering a 60% discount of an annual plan if you use my link in the pinned comment or in the description. That is 60% off a yearly plan. And now, let's go back to the Netherlands.
Housing was historically considered a social good, but it became a tool for building wealth.
So I mentioned that tax break for homeowners, and that's a good example.
It was originally conceived to encourage people to buy a home. If you buy a house for $500,000 and get a typical 30-year mortgage with a 4% interest rate, you pay about €360,000 in interest, which was made tax deductible. Homeowners, while paying off their mortgage, save over €130,000 in taxes.
That's great if you own your house, but here's the problem.
You got a major tax break, but your neighbor who rents a similar house didn't get any of that. In other words, the system drives inequality between people who own and people who rent.
And that's just a small piece of the puzzle.
Social housing exists for the 40% of people with the lowest incomes. Housing associations build and manage these homes, and the first years after being deregulated were ridden with scandal.
De Rotterdam voeren de nieuwe waterweg uit.
This is the SS Rotterdam, a cruise ship that was launched in 1958. It has since traveled the world until, after decades of service in 2000, it was time to retire.
So what does this have to do with housing? Nothing.
But a major housing association in Rotterdam purchased this ship for €30 million. They started renovations with the idea to convert it into a hotel and a tourist attraction.
This raised a lot of eyebrows because the mission of a social housing organization is to provide affordable housing. Don't forget, they're a non-profit. So why would they get involved with this kind of projects?
But then they had an unexpected setback. They believed that they would spend about €6 million for the renovation, but it ended up costing €256 million.
These stories led to a debate about whether housing associations should perhaps be regulated a little bit more, and that's what started happening in the early 2010s.
But more cracks started to show. In Amsterdam, the city with the highest cost of living and arguably the hardest place to find an affordable home in the city center, housing associations started selling their assets en masse. As a result, this reduced the affordable housing stock in the city center. This contributed to a higher cost of rent because the prices of private rentals were increasing faster than those of social rentals. But it was designed to make housing less dependent on social housing. In 2013, the government imposed the verhuurdersheffing, the landlord levy. This tax forced housing associations to pay billions of euros to the state and to push more houses to the private market.
One of the goals of these policies was to make it easier for people to buy a home by increasing the availability of houses on the private market.
But the rate of home ownership didn't change at all. It basically flatlined. And now with these measures, it became more difficult for housing associations to build new homes.
The state is obliged to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by the end of 2020.
In 2019, a court ruling forced the Netherlands to lower their emissions of nitrogen, and this immediately froze 18,000 projects, including the construction of 75,000 housing units. The rate of construction was already trending downwards, while over this same period, the shortage of homes was increasing. In 1945, there was a shortage of about 300,000 homes. This lowered over the next years, but especially in these last 2 decades, it really got out of control, with a peak of 450,000 homes in 2025. In numbers, not percentages, The Netherlands now has a greater housing shortage than in the years after World War II. In 2020, 1 in every 3 homes in Amsterdam was sold to foreigners. This sparked debate about opkoopbescherming, purchase protection. The policy aimed to protect homes that were owner-occupied to be bought up by investors. It was rolled out in most major cities. In 2021, over 15,000 people participated in a march demanding more affordable housing. It was the largest housing protest in decades. The cost of housing had nearly doubled in the 10 years between 2012 and 2022. And between these 2 years alone, home prices increased by 20%. People were angry. The policies that were supposed to provide more affordable homes and to make buying easier, renting cheaper, and they were intended to create more equality in the housing market were failing miserably for them. And now there's a new plan. One of the main goals of the current government is to build 900,000 new homes by 2030. They are broken down like this. 300,000, or a third, is expected to be built and managed by social housing organizations. So the government still believes in this approach.
I opened this video by showing that the Netherlands has both a very large percentage of social housing and at the same time they have a remarkably high percentage of renters that are overburdened by the cost of rent. But I don't mean to imply that this is caused by social housing or that social housing has a net negative effect on the housing market. It is more complex than that.
For decades, the Netherlands didn't build enough homes, and construction is now hindered by goals to reduce emissions. The Dutch population has grown faster than anybody expected. People bought more homes as an investment, and strict land use restrictions, labor shortages, and rising construction costs have all contributed to a slow response to rapidly increasing demand.
Much of this is rooted in policy. The Dutch have tried to balance their social mission with advantages of a market-oriented approach, but they have moved too far in either direction in the past, and we've lived through the consequences.
The Dutch are in uncharted territory. This has never been done before.
Then on a final note, in last week's video about Poland, I did something that I've only done once before on this channel. I went on camera and I explained that lately we've not been so lucky with the YouTube algorithm. And one of the reasons that I saw for this was a lack of positive engagement. So what I did is I asked you to like the video and to subscribe to the channel. And so many of you did. It felt incredible, but it did so much more than that. So if I open my YouTube Studio app, it actually said that this video did better than others because more subscribers were choosing to engage with this video. So it was actually your positive feedback that made this video blow up. And please continue. For you, placing a like and writing a comment or subscribing to the channel is very low effort, but for me it means all the difference in the world. And it actually makes it viable to make these videos and to spend so much time on it. And then after that, here are 2 more videos for you to consider for your next watch.
If you're visiting the Netherlands for the first time this year, make sure you watch this video because in it, I'll be sharing all sorts of tips and tricks for first-timers. Hi, I'm Christina from happytowonder.com, and over the years, I've probably been to the Netherlands maybe 6 or 7 times, so I've learned a lot the hard way, what to do and what not to do. So in this video, I'm gonna be sharing all my top tips and tricks to make sure that your first trip is a roaring success. But for now, let's get started with some basic must-knows and travel planning tips. So first things first, do understand that there is a difference between the Netherlands and Holland. I know these terms are often used interchangeably, but Holland actually only refers to a small part of the country, whereas the Netherlands is the entire country. And to be honest with you, most Dutch people I've met are really chill about this. They often use them interchangeably themselves just because they know that Holland is better known. But if you want to be technically correct, just know that these shouldn't be used interchangeably. Also, it's very important for you to know that the Netherlands is way more than just Amsterdam, and getting around to different cities couldn't be easier because the country is so small. So be sure to diversify your itinerary for your trip because there really is a lot to see. Within an hour of Amsterdam, for instance, you have all sorts of cool cities like Haarlem, Utrecht, Rotterdam, The Hague, Leiden, and there's plenty more to discover beyond that. if you just venture a little bit further out. So be sure to look beyond just Amsterdam, there is so much to see. Now, in terms of when to visit, honestly, spring is one of the best times to go. Sure, the weather can be a little bit iffy, it rains a lot in the Netherlands, but this is when you're gonna be able to see some of those classic Dutch tulips that the country is so famous for, and that is when they're gonna be in bloom. Now, of course, tulip season does vary year by year. We're at the whims of nature here, so it's not like you're gonna be able to say, okay, on this date, all the tulips are just gonna bloom. But generally speaking, if you're planning a trip specifically for this, mid-April is probably a safe bet. There's probably gonna be tulips at that time. And in the past, this is when I've gone, and it has been absolutely beautiful. If you're looking to avoid crowds though, winter or fall is probably a better bet, and I would definitely avoid July and August, as well as school holidays like Easter, because that's when crowds and prices are at their worst. Now, language-wise, the official language in the Netherlands is, of course, Dutch, but honestly, Dutch people speak phenomenal English, and I'm not just talking about like vocabulary and grammar, they actually get references and jokes as well, so really they are super fluent, and you're gonna be completely fine getting by with English, generally speaking, especially in the big cities. So don't worry too much about learning a lot of Dutch before you go. English will be just fine, but it is, of course, still polite to learn some basics, so to say thank you, it's dankjewel, just keep that one in mind. You're gonna be using it a lot. In terms of getting around, the trains in the Netherlands are honestly amazing. They're super clean, super efficient, simple to use, and there's like 400 train stations scattered across the country, so you can really get anywhere with the train. The best thing is the prices are also fixed on distance, so you don't have to worry about dynamic pricing. Now, in terms of figuring out what trains to catch or what public transport to use, one really great resource is called 9292, and this is a website and also an app that you can download, and basically you can put in where you're departing from and also your destination, and then it'll show you exactly how you can get from one place to another using different modes of public transport. As of 2023, you can even use your contactless debit and credit cards at the train station, so you don't need to even buy your tickets in advance. So you can just show up, tap your card, and go right through. Sadly, there is a downside to this utopian sounding train system, and that is it's not exactly the cheapest. Luckily, there are a few different ways that you can save money. The first is to book in advance for off-peak periods. So often you can get a small discount of 10% if you book a digital ticket at least 4 days in advance, specifically for off-peak periods, which are weekdays before 6:30, weekdays between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m., and also weekdays after 6:30, as well as all day during weekends and holidays. You can also buy something called group tickets, which give you more savings the more people you have in your group. So if you're doing any trips with multiple friends or family, this can be a great way to save. And if you plan to cover a lot of ground, like you're doing some day trips or whatever, you can also buy day tickets that cover you for the entire network or specific portions of the network. So that can be another way to save money. Now, as for which tickets to buy, as a tourist, as I mentioned before, probably the simplest thing to do is just go contactless, unless you're buying in advance for the discount, in which case you can get the digital tickets and then just scan it on your phone. They do also still have the old school OV chip cards, which are these physical tickets that you can buy from the machines. To be honest, as a visitor, I wouldn't advise getting these just because there's no benefit to getting them, and it does cost €1 extra. There's also personal OV cards that you can buy and reload with credit, but to be honest, as a tourist, it doesn't really make sense to get these unless you're planning to go to the Netherlands a lot or you're going to be staying there long term, because these cards, yes, they can unlock certain discounts and perks, but it doesn't really make sense if you're only there for a few days. Lastly, note that there's also Wi-Fi on board, so be sure to look for a network called Wi-Fi in the train. All right, now let's run through some quick culture and etiquette tips. First of all, don't be shocked by Dutch directness. I really do think that Dutch people are overall super friendly and kind, but there is a common stereotype that they can be more direct and honest, and I have witnessed this on a few occasions. They're like super friendly 99% of the time, and then out of nowhere, they'll hit you with this very direct honesty bomb that kind of takes you aback if you're not used to it. So just be prepared for that, and don't be surprised if you ask someone how their day's been and they tell you it's actually been terrible. It's nothing against you personally. Now, another thing that you should try to do is learn the correct pronunciation of the destinations that you're visiting. As I mentioned before, Dutch people speak amazing English, but one area where they might struggle is if you're not pronouncing the names of places correctly. That's because they're just so used to hearing the correct pronunciation of places. So if you're heading to different towns or different cities, make sure you know how to say them just in case you need to ask for directions. Of course, with bigger cities like Amsterdam, which have a very popular and common anglicized name, it's going to be fine. You don't have to be like, oh, where's Amsterdam? But with places that are smaller and don't have like a common anglified pronunciation, it can be really helpful to know how to say it. And of course, another important etiquette tip is to just be respectful of customs and things that are different to your home countries. So for instance, for a lot of first-time visitors, I know it's super common to be shocked that things like prostitution are legal here and marijuana is decriminalized. If it's not like that in your home country, naturally you're going to be surprised by that. But of course, in the Netherlands, this is common. So don't be making things out to be a novelty. I feel like that's really obnoxious. Like, don't go to the red light district and take photos of the women because that's a novelty to you. That's super frowned upon. fun. In fact, a lot of Dutch people even consider the coffee shops and red light district to be more things that tourists do rather than locals. So yeah, don't assume that everyone in the Netherlands are potheads, because they're absolutely not. All right, now let's talk about sightseeing and attractions in the Netherlands. First of all, if you're coming for the world famous tulip season, there's a few things that you should know. I know the fields are beautiful, but when you see tulip fields, make sure you're not going out onto the fields and trampling on flowers, picking flowers, doing things like that, because at the end of the day, these fields and these farms are still people's livelihoods. So as much as you want to go get a nice picture, make sure you're not ruining the fields in the process of doing that. In fact, these days, there's actually a lot of farms that have caught on to the fact that Instagrammability is a big thing. So there's actually quite a few farms that offer photo experiences where you can buy a ticket and then you can go in, they'll give you props, you can take pictures. And so if you want to take photos, make sure to look into an experience like that and don't just go trample random tulip fields out in the countryside, because that is definitely frowned upon and is technically trespassing. Now, another thing to note is that Keukenhof, which is the world's most famous flower garden, a lot of people seem to think that when you go there, it's going to be rows upon rows of tulip fields, but that's not actually the case. Keukenhof is actually a landscaped garden, and it's really beautiful. There's different sculptures, different installations, but based on the marketing and the photos that they use, a lot of people think that they're going to see tulip fields that look like this, and that's not the case. So make sure you also book an additional experience, do another tour that takes you to fields instead of just going to the gardens, because it's not going to look like that. Now, when going sightseeing in the Netherlands, another big tip is to book things in advance, especially for big attractions like the Anne Frank House, for instance, in Amsterdam. You really do need to book in advance, because during peak tourist season, these places can book up really quickly. Now, as amazing as Dutch attractions are, I do find that some of them can be quite expensive, and unlike other European countries I've been to, there don't seem to be a lot of age-based discounts unless you're a child, so there's not a ton of discounts for youth or students or seniors, so just keep that in mind. That said, there are a few different ways that you can save money. So the first one is by buying sightseeing passes or cards. I've done this in the past with the Amsterdam card, for instance, and these are basically cards that give you admission to a bunch of different attractions for one set price, and I really like these. If you're planning on doing a ton of paid attractions, this can save you a ton of money, so be sure to look into those. But if you don't want to commit to a bunch of attractions at once, another thing I've noticed in the Netherlands that's super common is doing bundle attraction tickets. So oftentimes if you hop on Get Your Guide or Tickets, you'll find that there's bundle deals, so you can group together some of the most popular attractions and then get a discount by buying 2 of them at the same time or 3 of them at the same time. So before you book directly on the official websites, make sure to have a look around and see if there's any bundled tickets, because oftentimes that can save you a lot of money as well. All right, now let's move on to some final tips for when you arrive in the Netherlands. The first is to beware of bike lanes. So in the Netherlands, people cycle a lot and they take cycling incredibly seriously. So if you're from a country like mine that doesn't have a ton of bike lanes, you might not be used to navigating the streets with them. There are bike lanes all over every single city, so it's very easy for you to accidentally walk into one unknowingly. So be sure to look around, keep an eye out for bike symbols on the ground, and make sure you're never walking in the bike lane, because that puts you in danger, puts the cyclists in danger, and they will get really mad at you. On a similar note, definitely don't rent a bike in the Netherlands unless you're super confident on one, because as I mentioned before, Dutch cyclists are on a whole other level. Honestly, I'm convinced most Dutch people are born cycling out of the womb, because they are so proficient on these bikes and it's super second nature to them. So if you're not a confident cyclist, navigating these bike lanes with all these locals who are super confident on bikes can be a recipe for disaster. So definitely don't rent a bike unless you're super comfortable with riding one. Bike theft is also a really common crime to be mindful of, and I have heard that they tend to target tourist bikes. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you lock up your bike really securely and maybe just rent one for the day. Another must know is to always have cash on you or to have a Maestro card. So in the Netherlands, credit cards aren't as common as they are in other countries. So while most places will take card, oftentimes it's specifically this Maestro debit card that a lot of non-Europeans won't have. So make sure you have cash on you, because you're going to be needing it for small purchases and you don't want to get caught out without any way of paying. Be sure to also bring coins with you so that you can use public washrooms, especially if you're a woman. Unfortunately, it's a very strange thing in the Netherlands that public urinals are free to use, but unfortunately public toilets are not. So if you're a man, you can pee for free. If you're a woman, you have to pay. I don't love it, but it's something to be mindful of, so bring coins with you. And of course, once you're there, make sure you try all the different Dutch delicacies. So I know abroad, a lot of people will already know about the Dutch pancake. That's one dish that has made its way over to North America, and it's those thick pancakes that takes up the entire plate. But there's a lot more to Dutch cuisine than just the pancakes, and I'm sure Dutchies can kind of chime in the comments with their favorite dishes, but for me, where the Netherlands really shines is its array of snack foods. I love snack foods in the Netherlands so much, so here are just some recommendations based on what I personally really like. So firstly, for breakfast, you have to try buttered bread with sprinkles. Yes, this is something that they do, and it is absolutely delicious. At some point, you should also make sure you get a snack from a Fibo, and these are all over the Netherlands, and basically, they're like hot vending machines where you can put in a coin, and then there's a hot snack in there waiting for you. Isn't that just amazing? And oftentimes the snacks that you get in here are kind of the more traditional Dutch snacks that I love so much. So you can get things like croquettes and bitterballen and It's so convenient and tasty and fun. If you want your life to be changed though, you need to try a stroopwafel. These are basically waffles that are made out of 2 thin cookies with a caramel filling and they're pressed together. They are the definition of perfection. And these days you're gonna find lots of places that will do fancy things like they'll dip them in chocolate or add some sprinkles or whatever on top. I'm a purist. I think that the original OG version is the best, so make sure you try an original stroopwafel with nothing on it. It's gonna change your life, it's so good. And of course, I can't talk about Dutch food without mentioning the most famous street food that you'll see everywhere, which is raw herring. Now, traditionally, you're supposed to eat this herring by picking it up from the tail and kind of like letting it slide down your throat. I have tried it once. Wouldn't necessarily do it again. Give it a try if you want, but just know that it's not gonna be necessarily a taste that you're used to. Now, one thing to be mindful of, no matter what you're eating, is beware of seagulls. Especially if you're eating that herring. I have seen so many videos of tourists eating this herring for the gram and then a seagull just swooping in and grabbing the entire thing like out of their mouths. So yeah, definitely beware of that. Now, last but not least, I do think it's important to explain the difference between a coffee shop, a cafe, and a brown cafe or brown bar. So this is kind of confusing for first timers, but if you want a coffee, you're gonna go to a cafe, okay? Because if you go to a coffee shop, that is where they sell marijuana. And to make things even more confusing, there are things called brown cafes or brown bars, and these are kind of like a Dutch equivalent of the English pub. They're like dark wood, really cozy atmosphere, and you go in there to enjoy a few drinks. Definitely go to a brown bar during your visit. I think it's just one of the coziest ways to enjoy an evening. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found that helpful. And as usual, if you have any more questions, be sure to leave a comment. If you have any more tips to add, especially if you're Dutch, feel free to leave those in the comments. And for more practical travel videos just like this one, be sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much. Bye.
Living in the Netherlands, the pros and cons. It doesn't matter whether you're relocating for business, education, or just because you want a change of scenery, moving to a new nation may be stressful for a lot of people. Therefore, before deciding to live in Holland, you have to take into consideration a variety of variables, including the cost of living, the community, the school system, the level of safety, the availability of employment, and the environment. According to the third rule of Newton, which states that every act has an equal and opposing response, living in the Netherlands has both positive and negative aspects to it. Consider all of the perks of living in the Netherlands, then make a final decision about making the move there. Pros. 1. High quality education. The World Economic Forum places the Netherlands at the 3rd spot on its list of countries with the highest levels of education. It is estimated that around 81% of persons between the ages of 25 and 64 have finished at least their upper secondary school, which is greater than the average for the OECD, which is 79%. If you are relocating with your children, you do not need to worry about their education, since pupils continue to gain knowledge and the capacity to read and write, as well as research, mathematics, scientific, economic, and social skills. If you are relocating with your kids, you are already safe and secure. In addition, the school system in the Netherlands promotes you to grow in your chosen field of work. 2. Healthcare. Having health insurance is a legal requirement in the Netherlands, and residents are expected to comply. As a result of the relatively high cost of the compulsory monthly payment for health insurance, a great number of individuals are unsatisfied with it. However, this is a significant perk of living in the Netherlands as a Dutch citizen. You will never have to spend a significant amount of money out of pocket to obtain medical assistance. This is a government benefit. Some people get the impression that they are throwing their money away since they don't need medical attention too often. However, once they reach the point where they need medical attention, they will get it. 3. A low rate of crime. The Netherlands was classified as the 21st safest nation in the world, according to the world's safest country ranking for the year 2021. However, your safety is not completely assured no matter where you go, since you run the risk of becoming a victim of small crimes, such as pickpocketing. When travelling to a new country, safety is a valid worry for everyone, but it is particularly important for households with kids and women who are travelling alone. The Netherlands are a rather risk-free destination. However, you should stay away from places with a high crime rate and adopt the appropriate safety measures. Taking sensible measures such as securing your home and vehicle behind you when you leave, installing a burglar alarm, and so on. 4. It's small and easy to get around. Because the Netherlands is not a very huge country, getting around to its many cities is not difficult. There is an abundance of public transit options obtainable in every given location, including railroads, buses, trolleys and metros. Because of its compact size, there is no need to engage in time-consuming travel while going from one location to another. The terrain in the Netherlands is mostly flat, which encourages inhabitants to adopt a culture of riding. If you invest in a bicycle, you'll be able to reach your destination on two wheels thanks to the existence of dedicated bike lanes. In addition, riding is good for your health and is better for the environment. 5. Having a high standard of living. For both natives and foreigners, housing expenses make up a significant portion of the overall cost of living in the Netherlands. Prices in the Randstad, which includes the 4 main cities in the Netherlands, may be very expensive. Utrecht's rent is third highest in the Netherlands, behind only that of Amsterdam and The Hague. The cost of living in the Netherlands is higher than the average in the European Union. When separated by type, you'll find that transportation expenses and hotel and dining costs are much more than the EU average, but energy and gas are around average. However, there is a pricing disparity between rural and urban areas. Rent and groceries may be cheaper in rural areas, but getting around may cost more. 6. You won't have time to become bored. The laid-back attitude of cafes in this nation, as well as the summer music festivals that take place in parks and other public areas, are perfect settings for getting together with old friends and establishing new ones. There are also other cultural events that get a lot of support that take place throughout the year. During these events, museums and art galleries charge just a little admission cost to the general public. 7. Very clean. The health category in which the Netherlands was evaluated had a high score of 91. Additionally, the nation did very well in terms of the quality of its drinking water and sanitation systems. Its system for managing solid waste is likewise exceptional, and it has received a score of 100, which indicates that it collects and handles 100% of its solid trash. Because of all of these qualities, the Netherlands is a very clean nation that is also quite habitable. Cons. 1. Accommodation. In the Netherlands, there is a significant and widespread shortage of housing. As a result, it is possible that it will be challenging to locate a fantastic property at an affordable price. The rental of a private residence from a landlord is one possibility. However, the rates for private rentals are quite expensive, since landlords are conscious of the housing situation and the majority of landlords utilize this to their benefit. 2. The current climate. The Netherlands has a mild year-round climate because to their proximity to the ocean. Because of this, the harsh winters may be tolerated and the warm summer days can be enjoyed. On paper, the weather of the Netherlands, which is notoriously windy, rainy and uncertain, is often considered to be moderate. In point of fact, the coldest part of winter lasts from October until April, keeping the Dutch cooped up inside their homes for the better part of the year. If you decide to spend the day at a beach in the Netherlands, you should be prepared for the possibility that a heavy rainstorm may force you to sprint to your vehicle while wrapping yourself in your beach towel for protection. The climate in Holland is unpredictable in many different ways. Because of Holland's closeness to the North Pole, another one of the country's fascinating characteristics is that the sun doesn't set until 10 p.m. throughout the summer. This quality does, however, come with a drawback. During the winter months, the sun sets at 4 in the afternoon. 3. The costs associated with driving tickets may add up quickly. The Dutch are known for their obedient behaviour. The norms and regulations that have been established are adhered to very precisely. Planning and organisation are taken very seriously, since you are expected to notify the appropriate people if you are going to be late for any kind of meeting, no matter how informal it may be. The Dutch culture does not encourage or value spontaneity very for their obedient behaviour. The norms and regulations that have been established are adhered to very precisely. Planning and organisation are taken very seriously, since you are expected to notify the appropriate people if you are going to be late for any kind of meeting, no matter how informal it may be. The Dutch culture does not encourage or value spontaneity very highly. 4. It is challenging to create new acquaintances. Even though most Dutch people are aware of this fact, conversational English is not sufficient. You are going to need to educate yourself in Dutch, since the majority of the descriptions, announcements, goods and parcels are all in Dutch. You are going to need to utilize Google Translate whenever you go to public locations like the grocery or railway stations until you master the local language. It is not simple to penetrate a Dutch circle of friends because Dutch people spend around half the year inside, curled up on their sofas in their cozy homes, and their lives are dominated by their agendas. You will understand this when you see how the Dutch spend their time. If you want to make friends in Holland, the greatest time to do it is in the summer. The Dutch are known for their warm and welcoming nature. When people start walking about in flip-flops, when parks are crowded with throwaway grills, and when tepid white wine is served in plastic glasses, it's time to mix and mingle. In general, people who live in the Netherlands have a great quality of life because the infrastructure is well kept, there is very little corruption, the crime rate is low, there is a healthy bicycle culture, a healthy work-life balance, and relatively dependable services across the board. Even after considering all of the potential drawbacks, our research suggests that relocating to the Netherlands is never going to be an utterly terrible choice. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment, and turn on the notification bell. This is Learning Canteen.
Moving to a new country. It's a big exciting step, but it's also scary. Sometimes you feel that the new country is where you were meant to be, but some days totally throw you out of the place. This is the story of me packing up my life and flying across the whole world to a completely different continent. But wait, let's give you a quick background of how I even ended up here. Back in 2015, I flew from India to Australia to finish my master's in mechanical engineering, which I extremely hated. Even though I got the degree, the last thing I wanted to do was to work as an engineer. I was looking for something else in my life. And I found myself quite interested in filmmaking. Little did I know that I quickly got addicted to videography and eventually started my own business working as a freelance content creator. And meanwhile all this was going on, I fell in love with a Dutch girl. So you know where I'm going now? We had a good time in Melbourne, but eventually Mira had to go back to the Netherlands. Even though she went back after her working holiday, we were still in contact with each other. But there were a lot of ups and downs. If you are curious, you can watch the video of how we met. To be able to continue our relationship, one of us had to move to the other side of the world. And because of her visa and work, Mira couldn't move. So guess what? This leaves us with one option. Yes, I moved to the Netherlands back in 2020 October, in the middle of the pandemic. The Netherlands. It's a country known for its canals, tulips, windmills, and super tall people. I believe it's a country with enough diversity for anybody to call it their home. This country is not just Amsterdam, which most of us know Netherlands for. There's plenty more places to explore and even to live if you're planning to come here. Since the time I've been here, I've learned a lot about the culture, the people, and the country itself. Here are a few things which you might need to know before you move to the Netherlands. First and foremost thing, of course, is the language. And as most of you know, the local language spoken in the Netherlands is Dutch. So if you're coming to this country, are you required to learn Dutch? The answer is no, because most of the local people in big cities, they understand English. So even if someone would ask you something in Dutch, it happened with me a lot of times that if some local person is approaching you, or even if some international person is approaching you, and if they know Dutch, they would start speaking to you in Dutch because people just assume that everybody in the Netherlands, they know Dutch. So, and then you say that, oh, sorry, I don't speak Dutch. So then they're totally fine in speaking in English with you. So it's a video about living in the Netherlands. So we thought that why not show you a little bit of glimpse of what we are doing today. So we are going to a little shopping center close to our house.
Not a little shopping center. The shopping center is well known around the whole of the Netherlands. People from all the other side of the Netherlands are coming here to shop.
So that's why we moved here.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, so we are planning for some new adventures. So we needed some new summer clothes. So that's why we were going there. And then, yeah, man, see all the signs, they're in Dutch. It's insane. You should know at least a little bit of Dutch, because all the official emails, letters, all the signs on the road, everything, that's in Dutch. So you see the sign here? I'm gonna give you a little Dutch lesson. The first one is mondkapje verplicht. Mondkapje is mask, is compulsory. And then they say in winkel, toiletten and het information center. It's in English. What does this mean, Mira?
Don't touch it.
Oh, don't touch it. But how would I know that I have to don't touch it? And it's also good to learn the local language where you live, or even to learn few dialects, or even to just learn the basic. So that also shows a lot of appreciation towards the local culture, towards the country where you're living in. And even if you speak a little bit of Dutch, the people really appreciate it. Even before you come here, at least know a little bit of basics of Dutch language, because before I came here, I had to give this really basic Dutch language exam, the level A1. So at least I could know at least where's the toilet, where's the exit, where's the entrance, you know. At least general words I knew, but I still I didn't know a lot of stuff. So even if you go to supermarkets, everything is in Dutch, all the discounts, all the offers. So yeah, Google Translate would be your friend. But yeah, it's really, I think it also makes your life so much easier if you are learning the local language. Most Dutch people keep it to themselves and try not to interfere in your life if you don't want to. They're very friendly and will always greet you with a smile. Even if you do not speak their language, they are sort of okay with that, and they would still communicate with you in English. So all the clothes, what you try here, I am trying small, and I'm 178 centimeters, and that's a small size for the Netherlands. So that's how the average people are big, that even the medium size, this shirt, it looks super big. Here I got a small size, and we see if this fits or not. If also this doesn't fit, I'm leaving Netherlands. And also one thing I really like about Dutch people is that they are really straightforward, and it just saves so much of your time.
Dutch people are punctual. If you say we meet at 3, they are there at 3, but mostly they are not there at 3, but they are there 2:45, just to be sure that they're on time.
And Mira's father is at 2:30.
And my father is a 2:30 guy. And that's how I grew up. So now always coming too late is just not an option for me. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
So we just got a 90 euro blouse for 30 euro.
Not blouse, a shirt.
A shirt, no, blouse you call it. A blouse with buttons. Let us know in the comments. I'm sure this is a blouse. Adi has to show it somehow.
Shirt.
It's a blouse. But anyways, really good deal, and that is really something that makes Dutch people happy if they have a good deal on something. They prefer it for free, but good deal's also fine.
Free shirt.
Free shirt. Everything goes free. Ooh, Dutch people go crazy.
So Mira, you have to explain how do you make appointments with your friends if you want to meet up.
Now, just be on time. If you want to meet this week or next week, it's not possible. If I text a friend now, hey, should we meet up soon? Then she would say, maybe end March on the 22 of March.
And this is January.
And then I'm always huh, but I don't know, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe we're on holidays, maybe we're on a trip or so. For me, that is really, really difficult, but it's really common here.
So if you have to make an appointment with a Dutch friend, make sure to make an appointment in advance, 2-3 months in advance. That's how people do it.
It's somehow they also really they block every day of the weekend. There's no spontaneity. No room for some spontaneous stuff. It's just I don't know. Maybe that's part of being structured or so.
But I'm happy you are not like that.
No, it freaks me out.
Yeah, I would say that Mira is not typical Dutchy.
A little bit Dutchy.
Little bit Dutch, but not super Dutch.
No, true. No.
Yeah.
I always felt a little bit like an outsider. So what is the job situation here? So I came here in October in 2020. So that was literally in the middle of pandemic, but there were still a few things open in the Netherlands. So I started looking for a part-time job because my plan was to just get any part-time job as possible, and at the same time I would work on my business and try to grow the business enough that maybe few months down the line, I wouldn't need that part-time job. But it was not that easy. Especially not knowing Dutch would already eliminate, I think, 75 to 80% of the job opportunities which are available. So not trying to scare you, but still there is a lot of opportunity even for English speaking person. You just have to keep looking. It's gonna be a bit harder, but yeah, if you go to a new country, don't expect anybody to just hand you everything. You know, you have to look for it, you have to fight for it. And there is a lot of international workplaces, especially in big cities like Amsterdam, The Hague, Rotterdam. A couple of months ago, I saw in the news that there is more vacancies here in the Netherlands for all these part-time jobs than people. So all the business owners, if it's a restaurant, hotel, all these places, they are actually really struggling to find employees. That's a really good sign. So if you're coming here, make sure to sharpen your Dutch and just go all in with applying the jobs. The Netherlands is the most densely populated country in Europe, and because of its limited landmass and growing population, the housing costs are ridiculous, especially in big cities like Amsterdam, The Hague, and Rotterdam. We chose to live in Lelystad because it's just so peaceful, and literally 5 minutes from our house there is like a really nice forest, so we can go for a run. But you don't have all these luxuries in where? In big cities, yeah.
No, like,
and you pay so much rent and stuff.
Yeah, like in the big cities it's almost impossible to buy a house, and we have like a house. And in the big cities you live super small. I am teeny tiny apartment, and no forest, no green, just chaos.
You don't even have place to park your bikes, so you have to leave them outside.
And they get stolen all the time, super annoying.
Yeah. And now we are going to take you to a special place where we live. And then you have to guess what that structure is about. It's a funny one.
It's Dutch architecture.
Dutch architecture, yes, exactly. I'll show you a Dutch architecture. And just literally write down in the comments what's your first instinct as soon as you see that. But at the same time, it also opens a lot of opportunities for you to find more jobs in those big cities, and also to find more international people. And if you choose to live in small city, even in Lelystad where we are living, the rent here is obviously comparatively less as compared to the big cities, and the public transport work here really good. From all the cities in all different provinces in the Netherlands, there is a direct train, or even if there is an indirect train to Amsterdam Central, which is kind of the center of the country. So all the big cities, they are connected with Amsterdam. So even if you are living somewhere, and if your work is somewhere, it's not a big deal to travel. Bicycles is a must-have in the Netherlands. As I was telling before, that you can catch the train, but if your house is close by, then it's really easy to just walk to the train station. But in most cases, people usually take their bicycles from their house and go park in the train station, and then they go to wherever they have to go. So that's why bicycles are must, even to do groceries, even to go anywhere. Just bicycles are, I believe that it's a must. And on the train station, there's like a big parking of bikes, which will also be really interesting for you if you're coming here for the first time. That usually there's car parkings in other countries, but here there's like 2-3 levels of bicycle parking, which is insane. And sometimes bicycles also, they get stolen here, so you have to be really careful and get a nice lock. Try to buy a bicycle which just does the job, so even if it gets stolen, it's fine. But get a good lock. Investing in a good lock is also the key to survive in the Netherlands. So the weather, you have to be really mentally prepared. You have to be really mentally prepared to be here in winters, because I came in October, and just after that winter started. And the winter here, it's dark, it's a bit short, the days are really short, and it's rainy sometimes. Not sometimes, like at least 50% of the time. I'm really surprised it's not raining now. But yeah, it's not the most pleasant time of the year. But then hey, the more you stay in winter, and when the summer comes, you appreciate it so much more. We enjoyed a lot in summer, and summer is the time where you can explore the Netherlands. There are so many places here to explore. It's not just Amsterdam, or it's not just those big cities. If you have a car, or you can rent a car. You can just explore so much here, and it's really, really pretty. Dutchies love sweet things, and they put extra sugar on top of their sweet snacks, but their lunch or breakfast is usually not that exciting. So there was this first time when I tried the typical Dutch lunch, was when I went to Mira's parents, and yeah, it was a really interesting experience. This is my first typical Dutch lunch, and
Should eat it with your hands.
huh?
Should eat it with your hands.
Very good. And we also have tea. Very good. It's very close to paneer tikka masala, but yeah, it's very good. We are literally looking at the most beautiful Dutch structure in Lelystad, and I would love to present to you this beautiful structure in 3, 2, 1. Write down what do you think in the comments below as soon as you see it. Go! But there's also a lot of other options here, especially in the big city. When we were in The Hague, we literally did like a crazy food tour, crazy vegan food tour. So there's also a lot of vegan options. So think about all the other normal options. So yeah, there's a lot of food options. It's just that the more fancier restaurant you go, the more expensive it's gonna be. And the more fancier city, the more expensive it's gonna be. Even though there are not many food places in Lelystad, we have our favorite takeaway place. What's that place, Mira?
Toko something, and there are a lot of tokos in the Netherlands. It's Indonesian food, and it's so good, really nice.
So this is our favorite place, and we have already done the food order. Mira, push, not pull. Pull. So we just came back from the shop, and now we are warming up the food because it got cold on the way. And yeah, so we hope that you enjoyed the video, and we hope that you, if you're coming to the Netherlands, you got some tips which can be useful when you're coming here. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below, or you can just follow us on Instagram, or you can just message us there, and we'll be really happy to reply to you. And Mira, any one last tip which you would want to tell someone who's coming here for the first time?
Maybe I put a tip down in the comments.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
7 years in the Netherlands. Peace, adventure, happiness. I built a life. I found myself. I felt at home. But then, everything changed. And now, I'm back in California.
And in this video, I'd like to share with you why I left, what's next for me, and the future of this channel. But first, let me tell you a quick story of how I ended up in the Netherlands. Let's go back 7 years.
So, I didn't leave America to escape America. I left because I was curious about the world, and I was curious about Europe. Back in university, I studied abroad in Spain, and I always met Europeans on my travels who told me about a different way of life. One where time was valued more than money. So I wrote down in my journal, one day I want to work and live abroad in Europe.
And you know, I graduated from university, started working, and kind of forgot about this dream until my late 20s. Maybe it's because I saw the big 3-0 come in. I also felt stuck in my life and career. A lot of my friends were starting to settle down. I also felt the pressure to settle down as well, but I thought, not yet. And then I remembered this dream.
One day, I want to work and live abroad in Europe.
And I kind of felt like it was now or never. So I started applying for jobs in Europe. and I almost ended up in Helsinki, but that didn't work out. And then this dream job came to me in London. I applied, got to the final round, but I didn't get it. At that point, I almost decided to give up, but then I learned that I could study abroad in Europe and get a master's, and that would be my gateway into Europe. And so the Netherlands came up. They have a bunch of programs in English. The Dutch speak amazing English. They're known for being welcoming, and finding a job would be easier afterwards because there's so many international companies. And plus, it's a lot cheaper than American education. So I applied and I got accepted into a program in the south of the country in a tiny city called Maastricht. I didn't know much about Maastricht, but I watched a YouTube video and it seemed like a very cute and charming town to study in. So I said yes. And I ended up loving living in Maastricht, and I ended up loving what I studied. And after that, I found a job up north and moved to Amsterdam. And then COVID.
It was hard. New city, new job, new everything. And I didn't really know anyone. Luckily, I lived right next to the canals. And it was a magical time to be there.
I also ended up loving my work and finally found a profession that I really enjoy, that fulfills me. I started making friends, great friends, and then slowly but surely I started really enjoying life in the Netherlands. And then 2024 happened.
It was the hardest year of my life. It started off with getting laid off, and then more life happened.
Now, I won't say too much to keep my private life private, but I will say that there was an emergency back home last year that turned my life upside down. And so I had to travel back and forth between the US and Europe. And life happens, things happen, values change, priorities change. And for me, family is everything. And so I made the decision for now to come back to California.
So what are my plans? To be honest, I don't know. There's a part of me that feels behind in life, especially being in a place like San Francisco. San Francisco is home, always has been home, and I love it. And I miss the energy here, but sometimes it can be overwhelming, especially when people keep asking you, what do you do? What are your plans? And then I have to remind myself, you had the hardest year of your life last year. Just chill out. Just Nixon. But one thing is for sure, I will spend time reconnecting with family, friends, the city, myself. Probably get back into work, and the work that I do is coaching, facilitation, training. But one thing that I am curious about is, who am I now? Because living in the Netherlands changed me, and I'm curious, even though I'm not living in the Netherlands anymore, can I bring the Dutch back with me? And I mean the Dutch mentality. For example, will I be more direct in my communication here? Will I retain the work to live mentality? Will I continue riding my bike? How will I integrate my learnings? I don't know, but I want to find out.
So what's next for this channel?
Well, making videos, it's given me so much joy. It's been such a cool experience to be able to share my own experience, to connect with others, to learn from others as well. And you know what's really ironic is that here in San Francisco, I've always wanted to become a teacher, but because it's so expensive here and teachers don't make a lot, I decided to go a different path. But because of the Netherlands, I kind of changed my career to become a teacher, trainer for organizations. And in a way, I kind of became a teacher on the internet as well. So I would like to continue teaching, sharing, and learning, but things are going to change. It won't be life in the Netherlands, but it's going to include that Dutch perspective. And when I look at my videos, what I'm actually interested in exploring is what makes a good life. And what makes a good life, in my opinion, a lot depends on the systems and cultures that we are a part of. And for me, I'm now heavily influenced by American, Chinese, and Dutch cultures. On one hand, it's been really confusing, but on the other, it's been pretty interesting because I get to choose and pick what I like about each culture and apply it to my own life. So I want to continue exploring different cultures and systems. And first, I want to rediscover America. I know American culture is everywhere. At the same time, I also think it's one of the most misunderstood cultures out there as well. And for me, being away, it made me realize how much I miss about American culture. At the same time, it made me realize how broken certain parts of the system are as well. And so I want to rediscover America, who I am, with this new Dutch and European lens as well. I'm sure I'll have more reflections to share sometime, but for now, I just want to say thank you to the Netherlands. I'm extremely grateful to have had the opportunity to study in a place like Maastricht, and I was able to change and find a career that I love. I'm grateful to have lived in a place like Maastricht and Amsterdam, two very international places where I met people from around the world, diverse cultures and people that changed the way that I saw the world. I'm grateful to have experienced living in a place with world-class urban design. I walked, cycled, and took public transport everywhere, and it's amazing. I'm also grateful to have slowed down. You know, I didn't realize how fast I was running until I got to the Netherlands. The Dutch way of life is indeed a slower pace of life compared to the American way. And it's not to say one is better than the other, but it is indeed slower. And I was able to slow down. And now I also realize and understand why the Dutch are some of the happiest people in the world with one of the highest qualities of life. I'm also grateful for people that have watched these videos. You know, I never planned to make YouTube videos. It just kind of happened. During COVID, there was nothing to do, so making videos in a way gave me purpose, life, connection when there wasn't any. I think back to that dream I had about 15 years ago of living and working abroad. And while I never expected to be in the Netherlands, I'm glad things worked out. It turned out to be a dream come true. And I have a pretty good feeling that I'll be out in the world again one day. But for now, I just want to say thank you, dankjewel, and goodbye and tot ziens for now. This is it.
This is it.
It's good.
I mean, this basically determines if you're gonna live in the Netherlands or die in the Netherlands. Good morning. To those who are new here, hi, it's nice to meet you. My name is Milena. And to those who are returning, welcome back, beautiful. I hope you're having a good day. Anyways, so today I was going through my DMs on Instagram, and one of my subscribers asked me if there was something about moving to the Netherlands that she should know about. So today I'm gonna tell you 5 things that people never tell you about moving to the Netherlands that you most definitely need when moving to the Netherlands. And the things I'm gonna tell you today are so daily, so mundane, that the people who have lived in the Netherlands for a long time just kind of forget to let you know that you should probably look into it before you come here. And that is why I'm going to outline them to you so that you have a little bit of a better preparation when coming to the Netherlands. So the first thing is you need to get an OV chip card. An OV chip card stands for Openbare Vervoer, which literally is just public transport. And so with your OV chip card, you can take the buses, the trains, the trams, basically all public transport within the Netherlands, which is extremely handy. And you might be thinking, Milena, why is this the first thing you tell me? Well, that's a great question that you could have potentially have asked me. I'll take it. I'll take the question. It's because, let's say, you're in Rotterdam, and you're going from Centrum and you need to go to the university. If you were to buy a daily ticket, which is what you'll need if you don't have an OV chip card, it's much more expensive than if you had the card. So in the case that you don't have your own personal OV chip card, you have to buy an OV day card, which according to the website costs around €3.20. So basically it costs you €3.20 to go from the city to the university. If you were to have an OV chip card, that would have been much less. Since the cost of each fare also differs depending on what time you go, you could be paying much less by having an OV chip card. From what I remember, the last time I went from the center of Rotterdam to the university, it cost me like around 80 to 70 cents. And that was during a time where there was really no one there and it was quite empty, which is why it was as cheap as it was. But as you go into peak hours, then it starts getting more expensive. But either way, having an OV chip card where you can just fill in more money allows you to have cheaper fares and therefore save you money in the long run. Like honestly, it's insane that a few people, when they come to the Netherlands, they spend like a whole month buying like day cards. Day cards are €3.20! Ugh! And so I just want to save you money. And so when you arrive at Schiphol, Amsterdam, the airport, if you go to one of the machines or you go to one of the information desks, they can help you get one of these bad boys. So the blue OV chip card is, I guess, just kind of like an incognito OV chip card. It's not associated to your name or your address or anything about you. Basically, anyone can use this one. When arriving, this one is a good one to have just because you can fill it with as much money as you want and then also benefit from the cheaper prices from not having to buy daily tickets. But if you've been in the Netherlands for quite a while, then you want to move to your personal OV chip card. And so your personal OV chip card has your little picture and then your name and all your details, also including your card number. And this one you can link to your email and your name and your address and everything. And what this one lets you do is see your balance at all times. So on my phone I have an app and basically I can see how much I spend on each fare. This one's different from this one because you never really know how much is on this card until it runs out, that's not a learning experience you want to have at 2 a.m. when you're in the middle of nowhere. So this one's good if you've been here for quite a while and you plan on staying here for a while. So like if you're a student or an expat or if you moved here. And with this one, you can also go onto their website and check out the different deals that they have. And so what you can do is if you know that you travel a lot during the weekend, you can ask to pay a fixed price for traveling in the weekend for free so that maybe your costs are lessened. This helps a lot if you live in one city and you need to go to another one, or if you are between 2 universities. I know a few of my friends who study at Leiden and Delft, and since they need to go to both in different times at different days, having a yellow one is very handy. But of course, both of them are not free, and so for the blue one you pay €7.50, and then for the yellow one you pay a little bit more, specifically because you get it all personalized and stuff. So I always keep both of them in my wallet because you can't share the yellow one. So if someone were caught borrowing your personalized yellow OV chip card, they'd receive a fine. And so I guess that would be like the negative side of having the yellow one. If you know that you need to share it in between people, like for example family members, then the blue one, the incognito one, might be handier because this one, as I've mentioned, has no relation to a specific person and therefore can be used by literally anyone. And at basically every train station, you can find a place where you can check the balance of both of your cards and also fill it up a little bit. And so then on the same trail of thought, you should also get the app 9292. What this app is basically like the Waze for all the Dutch public transports. If you want to say, hey, I want to go from this place to this place, what's the fastest route and what different types of public transport do I need to take to get there? Then 9292 gives you all the options from all the different kinds of transportation there are to show you the quickest route to your destination.